Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 out of 2 games between Walther and Player in round 3 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Merderet, and on the Allied side Walther is using the Demi-Brigade SAS, and on the Axis side Player is using the 716th Infantry. So in the previous game we saw Player go 1-0 up with the 3rd Canadian versus the 9th Panzer. He stung Walther with a wasp, and it certainly ended in spectacular fashion. And that was a very fun game to watch, very back and forth, so I'd make sure you go check it out if you haven't already. But Player came out on top, found the +2 for a significant amount of time, to the point where Walther could not come back. In this one, we'll have to see if things go differently, but it's really nice to see Player on the 716th, and I look forward to watching him use the division that is often quite underrated, but has its weaknesses, and that's something that Walther may be able to take advantage of to gain an advantage in this game. So, how does Player deal with the Demi-Brigade? It's mainly come down to the use of Osttruppen and the large availability that the 716th have in order to press on to more elite enemy infantry, but pin them down with support units so that you don't actually have to fight them. That's where sort of the abundance of units and cheap units comes in handy, things like Osttruppen. They are disposable, you don't really care if it goes wrong, because you can just bring in another one and then you can go again, try and get your artillery to pin down the unit and then try and find that surrender. That's the sort of play style that the 716th tends to go for. They do have some other good units though, like the B2s in Phase A. They can make a lot of ground, but up against the Demi-Brigade SAS, they also have B2s, and they have things like the Jagdpanzer in Phase A. I don't expect it to come out on Merderet, but it's certainly something that Player will have to watch out for in this game at some point, most likely. Now, Player does have to make his ground early on, because as the game progresses to Phase C, Walther will have access to the American reinforcements, where he can gain access to Shermans, and plenty of them. Things like the M4A3 76mm with the 1,200 meter range, but plenty of HE value at closer ranges. And they can definitely deal with pretty much anything the 716th has to throw at them, except from possibly 88s. So Player may have to spot kill with 88s, just drop off an 88, hope it one-shots enemy tanks, and basically the 88 ends up paying itself off immediately with that tank kill. So we may have to see Player rely on that. But in the early to mid game, I think it's going to be really important, these infantry engagements, where you have all of the FFI units like the Saboteurs, the Macassars, and the Rallies going up against Osttruppen, supported by Lorraines, IG-18s, and the like. Let's have a look at what sort of units are going down though. On this bottom side for Player, he has decided to bring in a Lorraine early on, and I think these Lorraines are going to be absolutely crucial throughout this game in order to continue to pin down units on the side of the Demi-Brigade. Panzer 39s are going to be supporting 3 units of Osttruppen, a unit of Fusiliers, and some command infantry there. These Panzer 39s, their machine gun is what makes them really useful against enemy infantry, whilst they do have some AP value which can help them clean up enemy half-tracks if they become a problem. On the top side there is 4 units of Osttruppen with an IG-18 and a Panzerschreck. Panzerschrecks will probably come in more handy towards the late game, but if there is any expensive tanks invested upon by Walther in the early game, a Panzerschreck will definitely be helpful. Over on the side of Walther, on the bottom side, we see some FFI Partisans, and these are the FFI 2-man units with the Panzerfaust. They're going to be backed up by Rallies on the bottom side. Further up, we see 2 units of Saboteurs with, I believe those would be Macassars, 2 units of Rallies with the Jedburgh. There's another Jedburgh going to the centre with some more Partisans and some more Macassars. And on the very top side, there is actually going to be the Jagdpanzer IV coming in at the very start of the game, assisted by some rallies in the 251 half-track, some more Jedburgh, and a couple of FFI saboteurs and an FFI partisan. So a very expensive start for Walther on this top side, utilizing a Jagdpanzer. He's going to have to make some ground with this for sure. In order to utilize that 1,200 meter range properly, he's probably going to want to push into this orchard, and in order to do that, we'll need to be supported by plenty of infantry, because otherwise things like Panzerschrecks, for example, will be able to take them out. So that's something that Walther's going to have to look out for sure. But just in general, it looks like players are going to be pressing hard on the bottom side, as opposed to the mid and top side, where his units are spreading out. And Walther is pushing further on the top side than he is the bottom side, where his units are spread out. So similar to the last game, both players focusing on different sides of the map. And what I like to see here is this Panzerhaubitze Lorraine is firing exactly where this Traction's going to be. And this just shows like mastery of maps. Like this Panzerhaubitze Lorraine is basically firing where player believes the reinforcements to come in. And he's basically ended up hitting the mark directly. This shot could just take out the FFI partisans, and it does. That is a very, very impressive setup there for player. To find that kill based on pure knowledge of the map. That was really, really awesome to watch at the start there. But that's going to lead the way for the Osttruppen. Walther will have seen a lot of this coming due to those FFI partisans. But with the support of these two Panzer 39s, there really isn't much here at the moment that can stop this aggression on the bottom side. However, across the rest of the map, you can see that Walther is getting aggressive. He set up all of his attack move commands so that he can make as much ground as he can to give himself this +1 lead that he has found at the start of the game. On the top side, there is going to be an IG-18 supporting some Osttruppen. These Osttruppen will need to be careful because they are on the edge of the orchard, which means if they get revealed at this point, then all of these units will end up firing, and then the FFI rallies, the half-track, and so on. IG-18 just in line of sight of the half-track at the moment and nothing much else. That's having a go. Whether or not the IG-18 finds the kill remains to be seen. I think it's just going to end up getting pinned down. Both of those units are forced to fall back. There is no command nearby, and Walther knows it, so he is going to be able to get very aggressive. The reason that Walther would know there's no command there is because these Osttruppen and IGs are not showing command stars. So Osttruppen now moving up. They're going to get caught out by the Macassars at close range. Let's just watch how quickly Osttruppen melt in the face of Macassars. That is 5 men that they are left with there after a very short amount of time. 4 men go down. Now they are purely engaging with the rifles. Walther will actually need to be careful to manage these engagements properly. You can see he did just turn off the Kar 98 there so that the Macassars do not actually reveal themselves. Nice small kill there for the Osttruppen though. Managed to take out some infantry on the top side here. And since things like FFI saboteurs really struggled to hold the front line forwards, Osttruppen are taking advantage of that here, finding themselves a nice salient indeed. Now rallies have been brought in to reinforce. They're going to be taking up the buildings in this town, which I think is a smart move to just sort of surround and sort of defend against this aggression that player has presented. A second Lorraine has come in. And it looks like basically what player's trying to do here is pin down the rallies and the Macassars so that he can just run in with the Osttruppen and get the job done that way. On the top side, the Panzerschreck does get taken out. Osttruppen are being forced back by the 2-star rallies. That Panzerschreck was trying to be sneaky and get to the Jagdpanzer, but with the infantry in the way, that's very well played by Walther to make sure that the Jagdpanzer is supported correctly, because when you do invest so many points into a single vehicle like this, you want to make sure it's defended well. Either way, Lorraine's still doing their work. You can see that they are continuing to pin down these infantry squads, and since there is no command on this bottom side, there is potential for surrenders here. Fusiliers though, they're going to have to back off as the B1 comes in. But the Panzer 39s at close range may be able to deal with the B1. but they're more than likely to go for the half-tracks and supporting vehicles like that, instead of actually going up and facing against a tank itself. Looks like Walther's also got the, the 39s on his division, so he's going to be bringing one of those to the top side to help support the Jagdpanzer against things like the IG-18 and the infantry that may be looking to ambush. Now the Panzerschreck on its way up here. If a 30-point Panzerschreck can kill the Jagdpanzer, that would be a very good kill for player to find. But on this top side, or bottom side even, in the meantime, Panzer 39 did just absolutely ruin one infantry squad, those 8 HE machine guns getting to work. Now the Lorraine's firing towards the rallies to make sure they are pinned down. Walther, though, having a good time here with these Osttroopen. These rallies finding the pin onto them. Those Osttroopen will want to fall back. Meanwhile, Jedburgh, they move forwards. They manage to get the grenade onto the Fusiliers, so they go down. That Jedburgh's going to want to stay alive. 2-star command is really, really useful because you can see it has a huge radius. So making sure that one man stays alive so that he can continue to have that radius on the top side will be very important for Walther. But currently we are seeing it as 50-50, although player has this nice salient on the bottom side that he is continuing to develop by bringing in more infantry. So he now has the Fusiliers and the Osttroopen advancing against the rallies. The Fusiliers work a lot better at close range than the Osttroopen do. So that is something that player will be looking to take advantage of. But at the 100-meter range, as soon as these rallies get pinned down, they will probably surrender since the Jedburgh are not in range. Panzerhaubitze Lorraine still pinning the rallies that were trying to defend the edge of the town. Osttroopen continuing to advance. The B1 will stop these rallies from surrendering. But with some more artillery on target, the Panzer 39s may be able to get some work done. There is 3 here, all next to each other. And this is a really smart move from player because it means if the B1 wants to face it, or face them, then it will get pinned down a lot quicker than a B1 could kill off all 3 tanks. The Osttroopen trying to do some work here, but with the Hotchkiss 39 on the case, the Osttroopen are going to have to fall back. Osttroopen take out that Jedburgh squad. Bit careless, I think, from Walther to allow that to happen, but players really finding a strong advantage here early on with the use of these Panzer 39s. The Grenadier, that's following up, making sure that these Panzer 39s have that command. Player, is he going to go for the engagement onto the B1? I feel like he is. These rallies, they're going to back off and make sure they aren't found because that Panzerfaust could come in handy to kill off the Panzer 39. This Panzer 39 taking shots at the B1 at close range. B1's going to try and back off. Driver is knocked out. Now it's falling back, however. Unit in the town does get surrendered, since there is no command nearby anymore, since the B1 was falling back. This Panzer 39, though, really getting aggressive, but I don't think he's ready for the F5 partisans that are here. And that Panzer 39 is going to take it out. But it did manage to surrender the B1. So a smart play there from player to make sure that he took that advantage. B2 now engaging these Panards on the top side. And it is actually being very helpful in supporting a lot of this infantry. But as soon as the Jagdpanzer manages to get into this orchard and get shots on the B2 is going to have to back off, or at least get into a position where it cannot be fired at by that Jagdpanzer. Otherwise things aren't going to go too well. But so far so good. Players really done well to use his artillery. And Walther's getting very aggressive on the top side where player is pretty much struggling to defend. He's having to reinforce this quite heavily now with these B2s and the like, whilst continuing his aggression on the bottom side. So we have a really, really good game on our hands. And so far it has been awesome. So Osttroopen now trying to take advantage of Jedburgh, which have just been pinned down by the Panzerhaubitze Lorraines once again. player will want to pin down units before engaging them, just so that he has that advantage, and therefore can take ground pretty much for free, whilst there's not too much that Walther can do about it. You would have to find a way really to get rid of the Lorraines if you wanted to stop this. Nice kill for the Pack 37 though, finds a kill onto that 39 again. B2 still helping out with the infantry engagements. IG-18 still trying to hold the line in the orchards alongside the Osttruppen. Macassars trying to get close, but are unlikely to do so, especially in the face of the IG-18 and the Osttruppen. So this feels like a waste of the Macassars here. B2s have been forced to move down and away from the Jagdpanzer for the time being, but these B2s can still fire towards this centre area, and it's not the end of the world. Now, Walther has brought in his Panzer IV-H, and this will certainly allow him to deal with the Panzer 39 aggression that has been coming his way. He will be looking for the kills onto these Panzer 39s. But one mistake that I think player has made is just splitting these up in general. When he had all three together, they're such a big threat for tanks at close range. Whereas at longer ranges, they're not at all, let alone when they're on their own, when they are pretty much of like no value whatsoever. Nice kill though by the Panzer 39 to get a shot onto the infantry coming up the road there. Panzer IV does get crew knocked out by the Panzer 39. That's a shooter knockout afterwards. This is incredible. 2 criticals in a row for the Panzer 39. Unlikely to penetrate just yet. Now the front armour is shown. Panzer IV fires back. That Panzer 39 definitely wants to fall back from that engagement. The Pack 37 though is moving up, and this may be something that player tries to use to engage the Panzer IV at closer range, especially if it continues to move forwards, but Walther knows better and is going to be trying to utilise the range. Osttruppen, they're in trouble as the SAS Gruppe FM have come in. We have now moved into Phase B, so Walther does have access to his elite infantry, and we'll be trying to use that to take advantage of the less elite infantry that player has at his disposal. But currently player sitting with the +2 and has managed to find himself a lot of ground on the bottom side, whilst Walther, with a lot of his eggs in this top side, doesn't seem to be making as much progress, which is quite significant. And now Werflammen has come in. That's going to be going for the hit onto the tanks here, trying to pin these down. Does manage to pin down the Jagdpanzer, pins down the H39 and also the Panhard. So nice job by the Werflammen there to sort of curb some of that aggression that Walther was trying to take advantage of on this bottom side. But good kill by the B2, takes out some more partisans. Rallies have been found, but they're going to be hit hard by the B2 and the IG-18. They get surrendered just before the Grenfeder get pinned themselves. Just some really good trades in the early game here for player. But he needs to try and maintain that +2 if he can, because as we move towards Phase C, that's where things get really, really difficult. Now this Panzer IV, it seems to be in a little bit of trouble here. Walther's done well to get that behind the tree line, because it was suffering a lot from its morale, and a couple more shots from that Panzer 39 may have allowed the Panzer 39 to get the upper hand. Now though, looks like player's just backed himself up with some anti-air in case an airstrike comes in, but an airstrike's actually going to be hitting the bottom side. The 10 HE power bomb coming in to pin or possibly kill the Pack 37. Takes it down to 1 health. Now we see the Lorraines coming in, and they're going to be pinning the Panzer IV. These Lorraines once again proving crucial in these engagements. Fusiliers here, they find themselves behind enemy lines as they engage these 2 new units of Gruppe SAS Gruppe FM. They're now going to have to fall back. Hopefully not too far into enemy territory. Seems like that's where they're running. Either way, player's kind of holding on with the skin of his teeth down here at the moment, because the Macassars are making some ground. The Panzer IV can recover and help support this push, especially if the Pack 37 ends up getting found and killed. So I think player needs to be very careful on this bottom side. Currently, player is being sucked into defending the top side against this Jagdpanzer. And I'm not sure quite how much damage this Jagdpanzer has done, but I really don't think it's too much. It's used up all of its HE ammunition. And now it's really simply an AT gun. And it doesn't really have too many targets. The Panzer 35s and the B2s are being microed very well by player to avoid them getting into line of sight, whilst they continue to engage any infantry that pushes, basically. The SAS Chasseur Para there, they take out the IG-18, which has definitely been causing issues. Here come the Lorraines again with the pinning shots onto the infantry of Walther. Player's going to have to be careful though that he doesn't RT his own Fusiliers too much though, which currently he is. Panzer 39, that's took a shot at the Panzer 4. Mustn't bite off more than it can chew, because otherwise that Panzer 4 will take the advantage there and run with it. And with this Panzer 39 going down, there's not too much to stop things like these SAS Chasseur Para from really just taking back this town and controlling this bottom side. But player has brought in what looks to be some pioneers with the Panzer 35S. Now pioneers, they are a different story. Chasseur Para, although they have 17 HE to work with, pioneers with their 20 HE power grenades can still take out those larger infantry squads very easily indeed. A second Werflammen has been brought in. Player really focusing on the artillery here, which I think is the right way to go about things. When you can't match up in unit quality, artillery is really where it's at, because it allows you to pin units and not have to worry about the quality you're up against. Panzer 39 though, that's going to have, or Panzer 35S, sorry, that's having a go at the Jagdpanzer. Does manage to force the Jagdpanzer to fall back. Looks like players just looking for the shots, like the side shot possibly, onto the Jagdpanzer. Personally, I'd like to see him just fast move towards that again. I think he could get away with it if he tried. Walther now coming in with the bomber once again. Does pin down the Panzer 35 and is going to be forcing it back. That would probably be the only risk of moving this Panzer 35 forwards, is that if that bomber did come in and they were next to the Chasseur Para, for example, then there would have just been a surrender there. Chasseur Para though, they've made their way forwards. Walther's going to be trying to micro those out of the way of the pioneers. The Panzer 4 has come back and hit the Panzer 35 though. Manages to find any ammo storage hit. Doesn't manage to hit the next shot. Panzer 39 now having to go. Pioneers do manage to clean up the Chasseur Para. It's very close for those Panzer 4s actually, that Panzer 4 to be pinned down, and well, the Pioneer managed to take out the infantry, so this Panzer 39, if it can find a pin onto the Panzer 4, could get very aggressive on that bottom side. But all the while, player has been utilising a +1 to gain himself more score. I really like though how player has used his position in the top side to sweep across the mid and take back the forested areas in the centre. Usually I wouldn't say this was worth it, but since it's been going so well for player, props to him, because generally the Chasseur Para, for example, will destroy Osttruppen very easily. But in this case, with the pinning effect from the Lorraines, he's done really, really well to micro that and make sure that he continues to make rounds on multiple fronts rather than just the front on which he's had success. The Thunderbolt's now coming in with the 2-star veterancy. It did rocket, I believe, a unit on this bottom side here. Panzer 4 though continuing to fall back. I think Walther's microed this relatively well in the grand scheme of things. The fact that it's still alive is really, really good for Walther though, because it does give him every opportunity to kill the Panzer 35 and the Panzer 39 continuously. What player needs to do is make sure that he keeps it pinned with the Lorraines, so that if there is any potential to fast move down this road, he can take full advantage of it. For now though, it looks like player has found himself some Macassars to take care of, so he will be engaging those with his tanks, whilst Walther has brought in some more Chasseurs to push on to this town. 88 is on its way for player, and these Werflamens, well, they're going ham onto the Jagdpanzer, looking for the HE kill, I would assume. It can happen, even though that Jagdpanzer has a lot of armor. There is always the potential for a shot that lands near the rear armor to just do a lot of HE damage and kill the thing. But with the Jagdpanzer pinned down, the Fusilier is trying to follow. Panzer 35 is now looking for that surrender. Osttruppen, though, will probably have to pin the Chasseur before this Jagdpanzer falls behind enemy lines. Can the Panzer 35 drive through this fire and find the kill? I'm not entirely sure it can. Even at this range, it's going to struggle to penetrate the 14 front armor unless the Jagdpanzer shows side armor, which I'm not entirely convinced it's doing. So this would be a moment where player just needs to get aggressive again, just fast move right up next to it. Yes, take a couple shots to keep it pinned, but otherwise you need to get a move on there. So Panzer 39, that's going to be hiding as the Panzer IV gets aggressive. It looks like Walther's using the positioning of his Chasseur here to guarantee his movement forwards with the Panzer IV. Does manage to get a shot onto the SDKZ-7, which unloads the 88. 88 is now very vulnerable. Will likely be taken out by the Panzer IV for free, which is a really, really nice kill there for Walther. Doesn't have to deal with that. Panzer 39 is going to try and flank. Does find the driver knockout, but that's just going to be a bailout onto the Panzer 39. So that's another tank that Walther doesn't have to deal with. And yeah, this Panzer IV has definitely held this bottom side so damn well. But now we're seeing this Jagdpanzer being overran on the top side. Panzer 35S just needs to get up and behind this if it wants to find the kill. It isn't going to need to. Side shot finally does the job, and Jagdpanzer goes down. Look at the domination on this map now from player. He's continued to hold back Walther's advances for the time being on this bottom side. The SAS Chasseur just haven't managed to get the job done yet. Whilst on the top side, players' investment into this defense has really started to pay off. The double Werflammen certainly helping deal with the enemy armor that he was up against, and the sort of more tough units that he really can't match up to. Fusiliers, though, won't have to kill off that infantry squad as they take some damage themselves, but the rocket does take out the infantry squad. Saboteurs and Group FM, their location is known. It's really just up to player to either surrender or ignore those, because he could just ignore them and continue on and eventually get completely surrounded. Now we see armoured rifles coming in. Since we've moved into phase C, Walther does have the 150 points per minute, and with the support of things like the M4A1, I feel like players are going to really struggle, especially with that initial 88 just dying so damn easy. It unloaded really, really close to the front line. He got punished for it, and now he doesn't really have anything to sort of deal with the M4s, or even this Panzer IV, for example. The Panzer 35 is falling back, the Panzer 39 just went down, so this is a really precarious position for player down here. He's got one unit of Pioneers just trying to defend the town. He's got some Fusiliers trying to pin down some units with their machine guns. But other than that, there is nothing between Walther and player's artillery. Nice job on the top side, though, by player to get the track will destroy onto the M4A1 here. The double B2 will be able to try and take advantage of that. Grandfuhrer finding the saboteurs up here, though. One thing that is going to be interesting to see is how player continues to use these Werflammen now that the top side has been dealt with. But here comes Walther. He has driven all the way through the town with the M4A1. He's getting very aggressive here. Look at that fast move command right up to the location of the Lorraines. Walther sees this as his chance to take care of these Lorraines once and for all, and is not holding back. He's going to zoom on forwards, try and find the line of sight, take these guys out, and get the job done. 1,230 points in favour of player, though, so Walther is going to have to get a move on. And it's certainly starting to do so. One of the Panzerhaubitzers does go down. Really nice job there by Walther to take advantage of that. It's not often you see players like spot the fact that they've actually found a breakthrough in the front line and really take advantage of it. And that M4A1 was exactly, or did exactly what it needed to. Like often, I will say to players that I'm watching, oh, you should have done this, should have done that. And this is a moment where I'll say, Walther did exactly what he needed to. Just got aggressive, realized there wasn't much left, and took advantage of it. He is now possibly going to get punished by the Panzerfaust, but he's already done the damage. Like, taking out one of these Lorraines is so damn important, and the fact that that was just a transmission damage lets Walther off lightly, which will now allow the infantry to be pinned down and taken care of. But this is really, really good for Walther, because these Lorraines being out of action, being pinned down, stops them from sort of pinning the M4 and the Panzer IV as they continue to engage things like the Panzer 35s, and basically that means that the M4A1s will maintain their combat effectiveness where usually they would not. Panzerschreck has been brought in. Player knows it the right reaction to this sort of aggressive armor play, and yeah, is going to punish Walther this time around with the Panzerschreck kill onto the M4A1. But just really good job by Walther to get that M4A1 in there whilst he could and find the kill onto the Lorraine. So really, really nice job by both players. Initially by Walther to find the kill onto the Lorraine, and then player's response just absolutely spot on. Still a +1 for player though, so Walther still has a ways to go, but with the 150 points in his pocket and plenty of M4A3s up his sleeve, I think Walther definitely can put a lot of pressure onto player now. The armor quality of player is just not up to scratch in the late game, and that's something he can really take advantage of with the armored rifles as well, backing them up, making sure that they sort of go first and find potential Panzerschrecks and so on. But these Werflammens, they're going to be important as well to try and swing these engagements in players' favour. The Werflammen on the top side, that actually went for the hit onto the armoured rifles here. Didn't actually end up doing too much. It's really going to be up to this Werflammen on the bottom side to help deal with this aggression down here. But the Panzerschreck did move forwards and take care of the Panzer IV as well. So both of the armour pieces that Walther was relying on the bottom side have been taken care of. I really like, though, that player is getting aggressive with his flak filling trucks, though. This is really, really smart from player. He's kind of run out of infantry here, and he saw that the SAS were getting aggressive, and now he's coming with the flak filling trucks to just, like, destroy them in the open. Look how much damage these guys have taken. Absolutely insane. The Spitfire Mark 9s, though, they're going to come in with the bombing strikes. They're trying to dislodge the Panzer 35 and the B2, but that is a multi going down with a Pak 43, I would assume, for free. And honestly, this could be players' mistakes throughout this game. Like the Flak 88 going down to the Panzer 4 initially, and now that Pak 43 going down for free. That's really dangerous, because that could have been the difference between these M4A, the M4A3 and the M4A1 from making ground and not making ground. But now the M4s have freely taken out those two tanks after they got bombed, and this B2 is going to have to be really cautious. It can force a close range engagement using the Orchard, which may work out, but generally the M4s will aim a lot quicker. Now we're seeing an engagement on the bottom side. Players trying to use the Merderet to take on the M4A3. The issue is the M4A3 has got within 1,000 meter range of the Merderet, which means the 11 AP of the M4 will pin down the Merderet a lot quicker than the 13 AP of the Merderet 1 will pin the M4A3. And that's exactly what you can see taking effect there. The Merderet now being forced to fall back. Walther's got more shots on target, although the Merderet has managed to get behind cover. It may not be of any consequence. Either way, more infantry is coming in for player. He's now relying on his grenadiers. It looks like he's actually getting relatively light on infantry if he's coming down to his grenadiers. In Phase C, you do get a card, I think, of 8 grenadiers as the 716th. And when you get down to those, it's generally a bad position, because you'd much prefer to use things like the Italian infantry that come with the Panzerfaust, for example. Whereas in this case, it seems as though he's gone through those and maybe struggling if he continues to lose more and more of this infantry, especially in the mid here. As you can see, these Osttruppen are being taken care of by the abundance of half-tracks that are now available to the Demi-Brigade. And these grenadiers are being forced back. This Gunfjorda, only a matter of time until the SAS find those. So Walther is definitely coming back in a strong way right now. He's found the +1, but it's still a player victory in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. So he's going to have to find at least a +2 or even a +3 to win. But 57% territory lead is very close to a +2, and just that little bit more may allow him to counteract a lot of the ground that player made in the early game. And these Spitfires, they're starting to do work, takes out the Pak-37. Yes, the Verflammens managed to prevent the M4A1 on this top side. The M4A3 is also falling back, but due to the Pioneers being behind enemy lines, I'm not really sure they're going to be able to do too much there. And this M4A3 has recovered before it got close enough anyway. Very light defenses for player. He definitely overextended into the early to mid game like he needed to make as much ground as possible. Now it's basically in Walther's hands to make the ground back. And currently he does have the +2. It's just he's got to utilize these M4A3s at this sort of range to just absolutely annihilate the rest of the forces that player has, because unless player has more Pak-43s or more 88s, these M4A3s are pretty much unchallenged. Things like the Panzer 35s really don't match up well even at close range. Yes, they'll have the penetration value, but the M4 has the faster aim time, so the M4 will win in an engagement against a Panzer 35 in most cases. The only other way that player can really punish Walther is by using things like Panzerschrecks, but Walther's use of infantry and the fact that he has a lot of it in Phase C should mean that he doesn't have to run blindly into things like Panzerschrecks. Saying that, Panzerschreck does manage to surrender some infantry on this bottom side. Armoured rifles, though, they're going to take a shot at the Panzer 35S. It looks like that armoured rifle is not enjoying life right now. Oh, I can't believe that players cancelled that by moving. Oh, that is such a shame. The bazookas, though, not hitting the mark. That's 3 bazookas in a row that missed. I think both players, they're lucky their units didn't die. The unit behind it, though, the SAS, do go down. Verflammen taking a single shot towards the M4A3. M4A3 pushing on the bottom side, though. Player waiting in ambush with a Panzer 39, sorry. But I think this is pretty much Walther's game to lose in a lot of ways right now, because player, I don't feel like there's any way that he can get any more points at this rate, right? He's going to be in this position from now on. You know, he's going to be constantly losing. And that is a big problem for player. Best outcome for player is a draw. Whereas for Walther, I think it's his game to lose, because if he continues his aggression at this rate, he should win. Because he's got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 M4A375s on the top side of the map here. And those can just crush the defenses that player has in his way. All he needs is a couple infantry squads to get ahead of him, and he can get the job done. Panzer 39, though, that gets taken out by the M4A3. B2 is going to try and come around the corner here and get the job done onto the M4A3, but the M4A3 does fire first. Will the B2 manage to get the pin in time onto the M4A3? No, it does not. B2 goes down. Panzerschreck did take out the Panhard, though, which initially weapon jammed the Armada 1. This Pak-43, though, nice choice by player. Will be able to try and kill off these M4A375s. Does manage to take out 1. If it can take out, say, another 2 or even all of them, and the armoured rifles are no longer there, then maybe this top side could swing round. Bottom side's certainly in a nice position for player at the moment. This Panzerschreck's done plenty of work with its 3 shots. This M4A375, though, it's a long way to go back to its front line, but we now see an M4A376 coming in, so that may be able to support it. And although player does have a better position on this bottom side than he does on the top side, as soon as this M4A3 recovers and joins the M4A376 in pushing, that's not going to look very good. So, 4 Shermans on this top side. Can the Pak-43 clean up any more? Player does have more infantry coming in to defend the Pak-43 against enemy infantry, so this could work out quite well here for player. But Walther is so close to like +3. He needs 65% territory lead, and then he can find a +3, and this game will be his. But it is so dependent on what this Pak-43 does and if it's dealt with or not. The best way, I guess, would be to bomb it with the Spitfires. So here comes a Spitfire, and it looks like it is targeting the Pak-43. Maybe something that Walther can do. Pin that down and then get aggressive with the Shermans once again, especially considering these infantry squads are pioneers, so not too much to worry about in terms of AT. The other thing that Walther could just do is group these all up really close together, that even if one goes down, they'll just be able to turn and shoot the Pak-43 and yeah, wipe it out. But well, Assailant has formed on this top side with player, and he's managed to bring it back to 52%. That is incredible. Really nice job by player to sort of counteract this concentrated push here from Walther by sort of just moving units either side of the ball. Like, Walther has basically neglected to spread out his units a little bit more, and by doing so has allowed himself to pretty much get surrounded, and that is not good. He's now realized that he's going to move this M4A3 to the top side, but it may just be a little bit too late, especially to find victory at least. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. So what a game this has been. The overall aggression from player in the early to mid game has been spectacular to watch with those Panzerhaubitze Lorraines. Like, they were just managed so damn well. But into the late game here, Walther really using the American armor well to find ground back. Now this Pak-43 does get a long range shot onto the M4A375 as it came round to engage the Panzer 35. Pak-43 is being used very well indeed. This Wehrflammen looking for the hits onto the M4A375. Currently delayed engaging the Panzer Grenadier. If this Wehrflammen fires, it may just be able to save the day. M4A3 does get pinned. Panzer 35 goes for the shot, but a nice bombing strike hits the Opel Blitz, destroys the Wehrflammen in the process. Opel Blitz and the flak filling also falling back, and look at these M4A3s, absolutely fearless, charging forwards. Walther does find the +3, but it is just a little too late. Will still be a draw at this rate. The M4A3 is slowly but surely being taken out on the top side. That Panzer 35 going down as well. It's going to need like a +5, +6. Even that probably won't even get it past the victory condition at this point. And well, this Italian infantry coming in hot with the Panzerfaust does manage to take out one of the M4A376s. It's just aggressively pushing forwards. Look at that. It's going to, however, get shots on target. Does find the pin, which is very important indeed. Now, Panzerschreck going to be holding the line though. Opel Blitz munition does get captured. Marder 1 looking for the shot there. Panzerschreck, can it find the shot? No, it cannot. M4A3 is just going to drive on through, but is going to be surrounded in the process. What a game this has been. So many units dying on both sides. Both players playing to exhaustion in their divisions. Look at this. Walther's just zooming in with the F5 traction commands. And that's probably all he's got left. Because that's a lot of Shermans we've seen come and go. And what an impressive game. I've really, really enjoyed this one. The 716th getting aggressive early on. finding the ground before the elite infantry came in was just like so important for player. And yes, Walther had access to all of these M4s, but player found a way to deal with them, whether or not it was Panzerschrecks or these Pak 43s. And I said at this point, you know, it was Walther's game to lose. But I think early on, if the Flak 88 and the Pak 43, the initial ones, hadn't died, then I think player probably could have held on to this game a lot better. Whereas afterwards, I think Walther had the opportunity to really get aggressive. But there we have it. After the full 40 minutes, it is a draw. And what an incredible game. 4,030 kills to 3,280 losses for Walther, sorry. It was absolute carnage towards the end there, when Walther was getting desperate, pushing as hard as he could to try and find the ground. Didn't quite overtake player in terms of points, but doesn't matter. It counts as a draw. In this tournament, every player plays 2 games against their opponent, and then based on the outcome, they get set up for their next 2 games with another 2 players, or with another player. So a win for player in this series, and a draw between the 2. In terms of kills early on, Saboteurs, one of the Saboteurs did very well, but the rest of them only trading 1 for 1, which is not ideal. The Panzer IV, what an absolute hero that was on the bottom side. Didn't get taken out for a very long time. Killed the 88 before it unloaded, which was very important, I feel. The M4A1 came in then, and that was the one that got aggressive and killed the Lorraine. That was the start of that breakthrough on the bottom side. Then we saw the M4A3 come in and do some damage later on. I believe that must have been on the top side even. But yeah, these M4s, they can do so much. And you can just see that by like the amount of kills that they can rack up. But it mainly comes down to the fact that the units that the 716th have are very weak in comparison to M4s just in general. Like, when you're playing the 716th against a division that has M4s in Phase A, you struggle so hard because not even your B2s, which are your best armor, deal with them. Your best AT guns, which are like Pak 38s, can't deal with them. Or I guess Pak 40s are your best, but you don't have many of them. So you are kind of stuck against things like M4s, and I think player, like finding the kills with the Panzerschrecks and the Pak 43s, was very, very important indeed. In terms of losses, well, these Lorraines, they were crucial in helping surround the units and allowed the infantry engagements to go in favor of player. You can see like how these Osttruppen, like one unit of Osttruppen takes out Jedburgh, Rallies, and Makassars. Like, how does that even happen? Well, it's because of Lorraines, right? Panzer 39s, the group of those that player had on the bottom side was really, really smart. Like when he had all 3 together and he was trying to take on the enemy B2s, that was really, really smart. Like keeping them together like that makes them so much more scary. This B2 taking out the Jagdpanzer, it's not something you see very often, but after many shots on target, that Jagdpanzer eventually went down. These Werflammens, crucial, absolutely crucial in preventing some of the aggression from Walther's armor. And then we see the Pak 43 coming in the late game, starting to clean up these M4A3s. The Panzerfausts coming in from the Italian infantry also helped out quite a bit. But that is it. What an absolute cracker of a game that was. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. That's 1-0 to player, and 1 win for player, 1 draw. These two will move on to the next round with their heads held high after those 2 games. That's all for now though. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.